one of the things that cracked me up is somebody like, oh, these poor girls who are here stripping. And this lady was like, there is this chick who, you know, she didn't really want to be there and you could tell. And one of the other gals was like scolding her. And she was a mom, like, who didn't really have, like, her body may not have been like what you'd expect of that, but
Yeah.
like she made mad money. And she just told the other chick, she's like, honey, nobody likes a sad stripper. If you don't love what you do, you need to get the fuck out. And it was just, that stuck with me so hard
Yeah.
because no one does. Who wants to sit there and just be dealing with someone who's sad or upset or whatever? And not that there isn't a place for that or you can't be
Right.
real. I don't think it's disingenuine to want to share positive things, but I do think there comes a point where if you're just bringing everyone down or all you have to talk about is incendiary and controversial shit, like, or controversial shit,
Yeah.
you don't really have anything worth like contributing. I don't think.
And today I have Paigeosity. Welcome.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Can't wait to, hear some of the stories. And are you ready?
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right. So we start the pot off with 3 random questions. So let's go with what's your favorite movie?
Oh God. Some of these questions are like asking what your favorite food is. Like there's so many categories. I'm gonna say maybe let's do category of movie because I have like some lump stuff. I love a really good, like, even if it's cheesy, like action thriller. Like
Okay.
action thriller are just great. Like, especially if there's like, you know, you have these, even if you can predict them, whatever, just having a movie full of just like explosions and like stupid plot points. I don't care. Like the Bourne movie is
Yeah.
great. John Wick is just basically gratuitous violence music videos by the last
Yeah.
2 movies. It was like, yeah, this is basically a 3-hour music video of violent, you know,
Yeah.
montages. I'm like, I love it. I'm here for it.
Or
So
like the Expendables with all the, classic 80s
yeah,
and 90s.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. If you could live in any state, where would you like to live?
Honestly, even with the political climate of what it's like, I live where I want to live. You have to really live where you want to live, which is in my realm. I live outside Seattle.
Okay.
Um, and the Pacific Northwest, for those of you who haven't seen it, and those of you who have, I know you know how fucking gorgeous it is. It is without fail the single most beautiful place I've ever fucking been to. Like
Yeah.
I was just over in Finland over the summer, and the biome is pretty much the same, only we don't have sub-zero temperatures. So
Right.
it's gorgeous ocean, mountains. Like you can be alone if you want out in
Yep.
the wilderness or be with people. It doesn't really matter. It's gorgeous and the air is clean and the water is good.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So, you're donning the yellow tiger onesie. What is the theme song that is playing when you come into the room?
Oh, man, that changes based on the setting. Like that changes hard. Um I recently Oh man, I actually just posted my tiger onesie to my story with I was playing Holy Diver by Dio behind it,
Yeah.
which is good. But it would, oh God, that's such a hard. You're asking tough random questions.
You
I know they
know?
seem arbitrary, but like I'm an artist. These things all have great meaning to me. So,
Yes.
you know, sometimes your life is Russian hard base. My life is an anime. So sometimes it's just a hard anime opening and you're like, let's go. So I'm like, am I listening to like Tima Belaruski in my head or is it Kashmir by Led Zeppelin? It really just depends on the circumstance. So I'm gonna give that a spectrum. I know that's not like a fair,
That's all
straight on
right.
answer, but that's too tough to single down.
All right. All right. So, before, typically, started streaming, what is your background?
So I basically just kind of came up in a pretty little go nowhere town. I'm from the sticks of very northern California, which is like Oregon's butthole. It's this little shithole called Eureka. I complain about it a lot on other places. It's like you can be alone for miles in the beautiful coastal redwood forest and still step on a heroin needle. So in a small
Nice.
town like that, you are generally isolated, and so you can either do art, do drugs, or do both. I was never really into the latter, so the former struck me. I was a creative person. I'd been doing artwork. Quite literally, the oldest piece of art I own is from a year and a half old. I
Oh,
have it,
wow.
and never stopped. I was doing art galleries and commissions by the time I was about 11 years old. I might have been 10 when I sold my first commission. So I did some fine art galleries and stuff like that coming up. And then I had street performances I started doing when I was about 12.
Okay.
I had another friend of mine who was an artist, and we'd sometimes draw together. My shtick is that I'm ambidextrous, so I actually draw with both hands. I do most things with both hands. Um, Even shooting, I can shoot pretty good, like either side.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I just practice more with one side because that's more acceptable. But like I bowl a lot better with my left hand than my right hand. But like I bat right-handed or whatever. So it varies. But I would do street performances and I draw like different pictures with both hands at the
Oh,
same
no
time.
way.
Pretty exciting. Yeah.
Holy
Actually, it
cow.
was that saved me later on. My little like street performer charcoal doodles and stuff I did was kind of how I made my rent when I moved away ages
Yeah.
later. So yeah, I did a lot of art and fine arts. If anyone's keeping track of what you were gonna do, was gonna maybe kind of thing. I grew up with really good grades. I was always was something that was really pushed to be top of my class or work hard. So I had really
Yeah.
good grades. I, did well, and all my testing was all in like the. I don't think it really exists anymore, but there used to be something called the Gifted and Talented Education Program. It was the GATE program,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was in all that stuff, like AP college classes, yada yada. Anyway, I was going to go to Davis for neuroscience. That's something I've always had a
Oh, wow.
real penchant for. I still love reading medical abstracts and studying stuff even now, short of working on a cadaver or like operating on something myself. I know just enough to be dangerous, uh, but sat down, did the math, and with at the time I was calculating like a 3.5% inflation rate year over year, plus room and board, plus tuition, plus no one gives a fuck about you in a surgeon aspect or as a scientist unless you
Yeah.
have at least a master or a PhD, which is 13 years. So I'm like, did the math on that. Like, I have to do an internship for this long, counting all this shit. That's going to put me out literally well over $1 million,
Oh,
which
my
I'll be
God.
paying a bunch of interest on. And even if I nailed a job after 7 years, which is pretty typical for that field, it
Yeah.
seemed like at the time, that was paying something like the wild, 250 to $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Even with interest, I'd still be paying shit off for almost the rest of my life.
That's crazy.
So, as fate would have it, I instead just stayed working and doing jobs and lived a really long time in my little hometown till I was 25 and was in the same relationship for a long time, and they decided to fuck their secretary and marry them. So I
Nice.
just moved away to a city where I didn't know anybody. It was like,
Oh,
bye, I'm
wow.
never talking to you again. And I didn't. And took my dog, my cat, my truck, and what I could fit in a U-Haul. And since then, have been doing this art and guns and making friends because I love people.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, the whole education. So my wife and I are from Canada originally. We moved down here. The cost of education is just ridiculous. Like how can a normal person get their education, come out, get a job, and you're sitting on just a 4-year diploma or degree. You're sitting on over $150,000. You can't dig out of that hole.
The military.
Yeah, but even the military, you don't get paid enough either. It's wild. Yeah.
I will say though, like there are, for what it's worth, as far as like military and stuff goes, there are definitely good options there for schooling, which is arguably, I argue it's the only viable option.
Yeah.
Like, prisons and universities, privatized institutions that wealthy people benefit from.
Yeah.
Crazy that those things end up being really shitty.
Yeah. Oh. So you picked up and moved to a different city, knew nobody at all. No, and your all of your art is all self-taught, just talent and everything like that.
Yeah, I just I definitely have some artists in my family. I have some of my uncles that I always looked up to who are really skilled. And when I moved to Seattle, I at least had an acquaintance with that I kind of landed with.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. You move in with a friend who's living with their ex, and that went about as well as you could have expected. So I'm like, it's cool. I'll sleep in my truck with the dog and the cat. And then
Oh
I
my
just
God.
like, worked it out. Things worked out, and I got a place and stuff eventually. But
Yeah.
it was it was a wild ride. But I
Oh,
really, I didn't know anybody, and I was really excited to just get the fuck out of my town because
yeah.
I'd wanted to get out of my town my whole life. And when you're young and in love and committed, you stay. And so I stayed, and then I had a year just really being on my own,
Yeah.
and it was incredible. And then like met Jax, and he and I actually celebrate 5 years next month.
Congratulations. That's awesome. And now I've read that you're sort of a you have your own business for the last few years. How's that experience been?
It's wild. So, Paigeosity as a brand, I coined that phrase for myself back in like I was probably 13 at the time, 14 at the time, and I just liked it. It was a spin-off of funny enough, I used to read these books, and it was by like a sarcastic British teenage author. That was kind of the the premise of it. And she used to use osity at the end of a bunch of words. Like when
Okay.
someone went like ballistic, she'd be like, "Oh, they're crazy. They're full of like ballistic osity or something." And it was like silly, stupid words. And I just love the osity element. And so Pageosity came into that. So by the time I was about 15, I started doing like marketing stuff for the school, designing T-shirts for events.
Yeah.
That kept carrying over. I always kind of did logos and designs and stuff in the background. It wasn't really something that became official until COVID, honestly. It was
Yeah.
always something that was on the back burner that I always had. So it's kind of like, well, art's always there for me. I never really thought that it was going to be my career, honestly. It wasn't something that, at least for me, I did it because I can't not do artwork. Like art is
It's in you. It's in your system.
yeah, I can't not do it. Like to not do it is an insane frustrated fidgetiness that I can't reconcile with. I must create. It's just I have to.
Yeah. Oh wow. And now, in all sort of the art mediums, like I see you do, you do charcoal, stained glass, digital. Do you have a favorite that you just always float back to?
Funny enough, there are two forms of artwork that I love that I mean, unless you count martial arts, which I'm very passionate about. So I
Yes.
teach martial arts a couple days a week as well, which I'm very excited about. I
Oh
love
wow.
that. But as far as just the arts, I love, love, love pottery. And even though it might be a bit contrived, poetry.
Oh.
My poetry and my writings are something that are very intimate for me. And I've been encouraged over the years by people to be like, oh, you should publish that, you should do this. But it's something that I get it when an artist doesn't want to share a song or a sketchbook and someone's like, oh, you're so good at this thing, like you must. Like, no, when you're sharing your art, that's your perspective. Like those are pieces of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So to just put that out there, I can reconcile that with doodles.
Yeah.
But that's poetry is really intimate to me. And then pottery is I just don't have a pottery studio, but I love, love, love sculpture. It is so much fun. I took pottery in high school for like 2 years and it was a fucking or 2 semesters. It was a ball. I had a blast. And then I've like dipped in a couple times and done that. And it's just fish and water, love, pulling the clay and,
Yeah.
doing all of it. It's super fun. It's super cool.
Oh, cool. Now, is there a medium you'd like to try that you haven't tried yet?
Hmm. I have welded from a standpoint of having to fix something or
Yeah.
like work on machinery, but never in an artistic sense. It would be really, really fun to just have like a pile of scrap metal, a weekend, and a tap welder, and just to make crazy shit with that. I think that would be really cool. I also don't own a 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
So, medium wise, it would be really fun to fuck around with a 3D printer, like
Yeah.
for all kinds of reasons, but especially artwork. I think I could do a lot of cool stuff with that.
I'm always curious about, I wanted to have this discussion with somebody who's a true artist like yourself. What is your thoughts on AI today?
God, I get asked this a lot, and it's funny to me because people are really panicking about AI. And it's the same way that I feel they panicked about digital artwork. Like when people had tablets, they're like, oh, this is cheating. It's just going to be easy. It's going to ruin the traditional artist. And in fact, it's just enhanced tools and made it more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Same with how they thought workers were going to be replaced when we had self checkouts.
Yes.
But we're at a point where humans have this uncanny ability to perfectly adapt to things and do incredible things with it. Like you see someone, look at a YouTube video of someone who makes some bizarre fucking instrument out of ragtag shit and creates an orchestra like piece.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's incredible. Humans can take something so simple. They can take balls and juggle with them and do insane shit. Like, could a machine perfectly replicate that? Yeah, but a human's incredible. AI translates the same for me for artwork. I
Yeah.
feel that a lot of artists, as much as there are creatives who are underpaid, there's a lot of pretentious artists who are grossly overpaid, who think that just because you pick up a fucking pencil doesn't mean that you're worth your salt in anything.
Yeah.
Like that goes the same. People are like, I've been drawing my whole life. And it's like, well, that's great. But there's also a level of understanding and marketability you have to have for yourself that doesn't translate well to those spaces.
Yeah.
So I think AI is actually going to replace a lot of the pretentious bullshit. And the people who are angry about it are going to be the ones who weren't really artists in the first place. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what exists. I'm going to continue creating.
Yeah.
I am an artist not by trade, but by my own design.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a character trait for me. It's not just a trade. I also work it into my trade. But as I often tell people from a marketing standpoint, there's art I do for me
Hmm.
and there's art I do for thee. So
Yeah.
like everyone else gets these, doodles and anime work and stuff like that. But on my Patreon, I'll share more intimate stuff. I will share some of my like poetry things. I will share a bunch of my raw sketches and stuff like that. So like they actually get to look into my sketchbooks and my paintings and stuff like that. And every once in a while, I'll still put that out there.
Yeah.
But AI is never going to put that above me. It's not going to take that from me.
Yeah.
So, is it going to encroach on some spaces? Yes, but I think that there's always some good and bad to that. And
Hmm.
and I will give the caveat that what, there are people who are using AI trying to pass it off as their own, who are already artists who are trying to take lazy shortcuts like, oh, I'll
Oh.
just like, trace over this thing and pretend it's totally original. Like that's really tough to detect now.
Yeah.
It's a big reason why I think I take great pride in I'll do streams and I will live stream myself doing artwork, like
Hmm.
drawing guns, drawing people, drawing stuff. And so it's almost sounds funny, but my way I feel like of not only proving to myself, but like others, like, hey, look, I can do this thing without anything.
Right.
And that I think is important. So AI can't take that from you. If AI can take away your desire to do art, then I don't believe that in your soul you were an artist.
Nope, that's a great answer. And to me, I look at AI as it's helping. Like instead of I have a blank, if I'm trying to work on a document and I have a blank document there, look at ChatGPT. It gives me a starting point, and then I can sort of make and fill in the blanks from there. The other piece I think AI may be able to give, just help with your ideas. Like, oh, here's this. I could take that and make that into something totally different. Without it, I didn't have something to start with to begin with, maybe.
No, and it is, to be fair, AI is fucking terrifying. Like if we never had it, I'd be fine without it.
Yeah.
Like AI is terrifying, but there comes a point it's like cell phones.
Yep.
Like we are not existing without them now. It's 2023. The dynamic of what we are in the United States of America and the modern world has fucking changed.
Yeah.
And you can fight that. You can be something else. That's fine. No one's stopping you. But for the rest of us, it is integral to how we make money and how we do things. And that's just how it's going to be
Yeah.
until or unless something crazy happens and changes that overnight.
Yep, absolutely. And now over the years of, since you've been, drawing, sketching, everything, is there one particular piece of artwork that sticks out as like your favorite, or it's different? Each art has, different stages of your life as, that one was really good then or whatnot.
Yeah, I actually have it's hanging up in my house. The art I have in my house is almost all made by me. But one of my favorite pieces of all time was actually I'd moved to Seattle. I was by myself in my apartment. I'd finally had my own place. And I had had a lot, been hell of a recovery just in the way that healing from a broken heart, doing things on your own. No judgment, but my personal mission was never promiscuity to heal the self. I've never felt like I needed to be that way. So to that point, I went through a lot and I sat down one night and just had a canvas that I'd gotten. I got a couple canvases and I took this gold leaf pen that I had and it's called like a wash pencil, a graphite wash pencil. So think like concentrated watercolor in a stick. And
Okay.
so I drew a tiger head and used paper towels and water to smudge it so the tiger like bust looks like it's made of marble. And then I took that gold leaf and put stripes on it. And it's just one of those pieces, like I didn't even sign it. It was just something that I made. And I'm like, this is mine. And it
Yeah.
just felt like this turning point for me in something where I have other pieces in my life that I've connected with costumes and stuff I made I really cared about. But that for me is pretty precious to me.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And now adding on to you just talked about costumes. So that's another aspect that you like I've seen some pictures like you you do some cosplay stuff as well?
Yeah.
Is there a
No,
certain theme you like to go with or sort of whatever, whatever you're involved with at that time?
it's just what sparks me. I could never do costumes for a living for people because it's so exhausting. So the costumes I made in my life all had great meaning to me or were really important to
Mhm.
me. There's a few lurking in the depths of my stuff that I don't know if I might need to repost, but one of my favorite ones I made was I love the old Miyazaki movies, like the anime Miyazaki movies. One of them is called Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind, and in it they have these giant bug creatures that are called Ohm.
Mhm.
And these bugs are, they look like effectively giant pill bugs. And they have all these eyes, and they're all pissed off because everything's toxic, and they're stampeding, and their eyes are red. But when they're chill, their eyes are blue. So I built an entire ohm and put it on a pine caster system I made that was really lightweight. So the caster system could be turned sideways and put through doorways, and made
Okay.
a skeleton out of PVC pieces that could quickly be collapsed and assembled, and made this giant scuttle bug thing with its eyes that could change color. And it was one of my I'm like, I just love that movie and I love that. And I
Yeah.
wanted to make that thing and I did. And then, of course, Master Chief, because Halo is my bread and butter. I
Yeah.
came up on that.
Very cool. Are there certain subjects you like to do, draw more than others? Like I see, on your Paigeosity page, there's like, you talk about jellyfish. You have a lot of your galleries like animals and things like that.
Yeah, I love, love, love the Metazoa phylum or jellyfish in general. Like,
Yeah.
I love jellyfish. I love sea creatures. I think they're so fucking cool. So there are in every sketchbook somewhere or all over are jellyfish. I draw a fuck ton of jellyfish. Anatomy is fun. I do a lot of anatomy just by default. Like, it's just something I kind of do. So I
Yeah.
guess I don't know if it's my favorite, but I draw a lot of people, and that's necessary to doing character building or building different artwork for other things to publish. Like I also have a comic I'm working on, so
Hmm.
like that's a lot of fleshing stuff out and drawing characters, and that's really like some of the annoying artwork where you're like, oh god, I don't want to do this, but I need to get this angle. What the fuck? And you're like standing in weird positions, like snapping a photo to try and get your hand in that way or whatever.
Yeah. And now you just touched on your comic. Is that with Salt and Pepper?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, it
so
is.
what's the background behind Salt and Pepper? Because I see some of the images of these two anime style girls. What's their background?
So, Salt and Pepper is a comic that is taking place in 1960s Cold War America, peak McCarthyism, right after the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's a bunch of crazy shit going on. So this story comes from my obsession with crazy human history, like the all the different ways that we came to be with like medical science and like neuroscience and everything else. This is Faction 731. This is MK Ultra. These are your things where we did crazy human studies, right? So what is a true fact is that men predominantly, while they have a lower pain tolerance in females, they have a much higher psychological breaking threshold. Women are the inverse. So
Okay.
women have a more physical tolerance against pain, because childbirth, but a much
Right.
lower psychological breaking point. In my imaginary world, as it were, this makes more sense of why they're better insurgents or soldiers, right? So Q 1941, the Oberkommando are coming into Russia and they're storming these villages. And in these villages is my little faction I've made, where there were actually, I think it was called, wow, I'm totally blanking on the name right now because it was in Russian, but it's like a Russian poison center they effectively had where they were like testing crazy different shit even in the 40s,
Yeah.
right? So I have a place that's actually called they called it the Kitchen Project. So like there was a civil war that happened in Russia in the 1920s during the Tsar. Of that war, there were a bunch of orphans. Of those orphans, they took a bunch of the gals. Of those gals, they sorted out which ones were like apt towards, had proclivities and
Yeah.
propensities for better like strength and academia and whatever. Well, anyway, once those girls were put into this academy. The ones that were the best of the best were moved on to become a complete, which is like someone who has all the things. So they're not like super powered, but they
Hmm.
are better humans, like enhanced in that sense. But it's based off of this culmination of obsessive medical science and research that I've brought in. So all of the things actually incorporate like very real medical science and studies, like all the stuff that happens. Like I've gone way deep in the well. So there's some shit that happens, and 1941 occurs, and then suddenly the gals, it's 1960s and they're in America. You
Oh,
know, there's a lot. So the story starts with them. Like there's that little prelude, which it's
yeah,
going to be chapter one. It's not making any spoilers. You're like, oh, 1941. Here are the gals. Holy shit, it's 1960, 1962. How did they get here? Like, what's
yeah.
going on? And because the USA is so ripe with conspiracy and everything
Mm-hmm.
else, you've got these Russian gals who speak multiple languages, and they never really made it as completes. They were supposed to be disposed of as like incompletes or
Oh,
like
okay.
harvested for different pieces. So they're not supposed to exist. So you have some gals who are trying to make it work and live their lives, and they simply can't. And these
Oh, okay.
characters came from a doodle actually of a coworker and I that I had made years ago. I was working at this shop, and she was blonde and had cropped bangs, and people used to joke and call us Salt and Pepper because we looked
Oh,
like
okay. Yep.
similar height and stuff. And I just loved the idea, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to turn this into characters," and just kind of ran with it. And I was probably a longer answer than you were looking for.
No,
Sorry.
it's great. No, I love it.
I'm super excited about it. So,
So now, what stage of development is the comic in right now?
the characters are fleshed out.
Yeah.
Several chapters are written. I have the arcs and timelines pretty much entirely fleshed out, but I gave myself some grace to be like, okay, I can put that there, I can put that here, because who the fuck wants plot holes and shit, right? So right now, like chapter one is like just about ready to go, which I
Mm-hmm.
hope to release by the end of this year, and if not, it'll be like the first thing in January. But I didn't want to release any chapters until I at least had a handful of them
Yeah.
in the bucket, if you will, because that'll give me a better idea of like how often I can make them, what that looks like. Because I'm also putting on an expo, and that sort of changed my timeline for things.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been doing that. So next spring, I actually have an expo I'm putting on in San Antonio, Texas
Oh,
for
wow.
gun culture
Oh, very cool.
because I'm a masochist. So
For the comic, are you going to do a just digital only, or are you going to actually do like sort of a hard a paperback version of it or traditional
oh, I will
comic?
definitely eventually do a paperback version. It'll
Yeah.
probably be like where I just release the chapters. I'll put little previews on like my other social media,
Yep.
and then I'll release the chapters to my Patreon, which is like only $1 for people to sign up to.
Okay.
So I'll put chapters on there, and then as people, follow me through that journey, once there's enough chapters that I can justify it, I'll probably
Yep.
crowdfund for a book.
Oh,
And then
cool.
be like, okay, here you go, got it together. And then like people who fund it'll get like special extras and goodies.
Yeah.
But there needed to be some better momentum there. So I like have been planning this out where for about 2.5 years I've been teasing the characters since I kind of started the story,
Yeah.
and now I'm at a point where I can actually make it. So people are like, "Oh, what are these characters?" And now it's like, "Hey, there's a story about them that's coming out."
Nice. And now, do you envision maybe long term seeing an anime made of that, or some real life, sort of show created from that?
I mean, who knows what would
Yeah.
happen? Definitely. I mean, I'd be open to it, but I'm definitely one of those people who are you will never get the rights to my work unless I am the one directing it.
Yeah.
Like or having say in that. Like you will I understand that there are some nuances. I've been on both sides of the field, like from a director side, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but like unless I have full creative control over what happens, like that, I will die with that IP.
Yeah. Well, it's your baby. You don't want it to change. You have your vision. It's yours. That's the way it is.
And some things also are just better left untainted by that. Like,
Yeah.
not to say that there isn't stuff that doesn't translate well. I think a lot of graphic novels do translate very well directly to shows.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun to see. But on the other side of that, for the most part, you end up with just these weird, like artistic versions of someone else's art, and you can't do that. It's taking someone else's kid and dressing them up in weird clothes. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? That's not what they wear. They don't do that. No, no.
Yeah.
You know.
And now, speaking of your expo, are you able to share a little bit more about what that expo is
Yeah.
going to be?
No, tickets are for sale right now at
Okay.
pewpeeps.com. Pew Peeps is the good peeps in gun culture. It's backed by all my friends in the industry. I have the incredible privilege of just having awesome people in my life who happen to also do other cool shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my good friend Mike Jones and Ashley are Grantham, for those of you who know other
Okay.
Mikes. Grantham and his wife are very dear friends of mine. I love them to pieces. They're helping like support this, like Donut Operator, Brandon Herrera, Alex Edra, like Kentucky Bliss, like everyone who loves the gun shit. Like we talked about this for a long time, and when I pitched the idea, they were all like, "Yeah, how can we fucking help?" Because I don't know, it's 2023. Like, there's always going to be a place for the grunt style military guy and everything else, but the likelihood of you getting waxed by a guy in full kit with a Gucci HK and a maid costume, no longer zero. The world has changed.
Yep.
And it's not just about, the military element or the law enforcement side of things. Like, this is about civilians. Like, I deeply believe in, like, everyone should have fucking guns.
Hmm.
Like, it is everyone should have guns. Like, vices and violence, inevitabilities of humankind. Teach proper shit about sex and reproduction. Teach proper shit about driving a vehicle, which can kill people. Teach proper shit about drugs and about guns.
Yep.
Teach people what these things mean and how to use them safely. And suddenly you'll have, not as much ignorance, which then dispels fear because it creates understanding. So
Yep.
it's like, to that point.
Yep.
I just hate the fear mongering behind all of it. It's fucking annoying.
Yep, absolutely. And now speaking of, gun and gun culture, what was your like did you grow up around guns, shooting them and everything like that, or was that later in life you sort of got introduced to, guns?
I'd always kind of, shot cans in the backyard
Yeah.
or, one of my uncles took me out. We shot like Glocks and shotguns on his property and stuff. So there were things like that I did. I always thought guns were cool. My God,
Right.
this is fucking awesome. This is a power stick. Played a lot of video games. Like,
Yep.
guns are just fucking cool to begin with. In the same way that I think like cars are cool or like whatever,
Hmm.
they're a neat piece of equipment.
Yep.
But I was never really serious about it until Jax and I got together. So I actually
Yep.
met him because Roy and I from Weapon Outfitters became friends. We met at an expo
Oh,
and
okay.
ended up being buddies. He lent me his space to actually make my Halo costume, which is kind of how we bonded. We were like, at the time, we had both met each other after like terrible breakups, and I was like, my man. And so we ended up just like being able to hang out and like bitch about shit. It was really great. We had a really great relationship hanging out. And that's how I met Jackson. And Jackson and I became fast friends. And then we knew each other for a few months before we consummated our friendship.
Yeah.
And we ended up from there getting just really into shooting and guns. So I just couldn't get enough of it. I basically told him, I was like, hey, I want you every time you pick up a weapon to just talk to me like I'm a retarded 5-year-old and just like go through everything. And so he bought us his and her lowers because I wanted to build my
Yep.
own AR. I'm like, I want to build a gun. I want to see what this looks like. So we sat down and we built stuff
Oh,
side by
cool.
side and went through all that. And so I learned that. And so there's so much nomenclature and different things in this world. It's anything you go, there's a rabbit hole. You like
Right.
shotguns? Well, we can go all the way to the history of shotguns. You want to talk about nods? Like that's like some shit that's like talking to a scientist about something. Like you
Yep.
get lost in it. But to that point, I feel like I've gotten a good baseline, and he took me through that. And then it was, you know, shooting, running like flat range drills, doing some SUT stuff. Still couldn't get enough of it. Yeah, I played paintball as a kid and ran around the woods, but
Yeah.
it wasn't, Darcy. Then it was like I got an invite to go to Direct Action Resource Center, and I've been out there several times, and it's like those people are my home away from home. I love being out there, and I can't get enough of it. Then get
Yep.
invited to Finnish Brutality, and it's just like, fuck yeah, let's
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm always surprised by, the weight when you hold a rifle. It is, it's and you see people like, oh, you can run, you can run and jump. No, you're not doing that with a fully loaded rifle or along with the gear and the plates that you're wearing with that. It's it's
It,
it's
it can get
not
heavy
easy.
fast. Like
Yeah.
it's you're standing in pulling security in a hallway and suddenly you start seeing the lights drop and you're like, oh, their arms are getting tired. Time to go get them. Whatever. Because we will do Jax and I'll sometimes help train like local LE, like SWAT and stuff, and
Yeah.
force on force things, and go in there and go give them a little run for their money. But yeah, it that shit gets heavy. But also that's why you build your guns to be optimal, something that you
Right.
can use and you can run with.
Yep.
Even a chicken is heavy if carried far.
Yep, that's
It's kind of how
true.
it goes.
And now you just talked about Finnish brutality. Do you want to share what that is? Because you got to go over there and experience that.
Yeah, Finnish Brutality is put on by this epic company, Varustelleka. Varustelleka is like the largest or second largest, like basically military surplus company in all of Europe. I didn't realize the scale of them. Jackson and I became friends with Yari, like one of the big wig at the company, several years ago at SHOT Show, and just he's awesome. Fucking love Yari. Met Tony, met the people who run the place. We all became great. So this relevant, great people. They invite us out this last summer to go to their event. Finnish Brutality is a 2-day shooting event that takes place over, in this case, 10 stages. They mix it up a lot, but it's very comprehensive. It's very involved. It's made to be hard on purpose. There's no gender differences between what you do. You just go out there and you fucking do it, which thank God, I love that. So the whole thing is just you go through, you shoot, but you also have to maintain a certain physical level or test through every single round, whether that's mental, whether that's just like raw physical, like you're climbing ropes, you're throwing kettlebells. The picture of me in the Recoil magazine, I'm wearing a 47-kilo backpack, which is near my body weight. So it's like you're wearing that and you're running over obstacles and then shooting at a VTAC barrier and going the other side. So it's just a testament to your like physical and mental strength, but
Yeah.
there is still a total game element of it too, which is there's stuff where like they had clay pigeons on the ground in one of them, where if you stepped on it, it was a mine, it went off and you
Okay.
died. So there are people who were way better shooters who, had they finished the round, they would have probably obliterated it. But
Yeah.
IRL, if you weren't paying attention and stepped on that, you just died, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what it's simulating.
Oh, very. And now, looking back on that experience, what were a couple of the highlights?
The highlight, I think, I mean, say it's not a cop out to just say the culture. Nothing quite resonates like being around a bunch of people where the common language is English, but there's
Yeah.
these accents from all over the world. Like we have Austria, Germany, Ukraine, like Slovenia, like all over the place from all different, not only the US but all over Europe. It's
Yeah.
incredible. So being immersed in that is something really special. Um, but I also love that when you do something like this, and I've spoke about this a few times other places, like as a woman and a male dominated industry, like, oh, I'm a woman, whatever. Uh, you have to work twice as hard to be half as good at fucking anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this. I came in far from last, which was an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
But the fact that when I'm there and I'm working my ass off and everyone's having a good time, like there's this really cool real like equality that happens in those places. I'm going to use the term real here in the way that there isn't some fluff. The weight isn't adjusted for who's wearing the
Right.
backpack. The height isn't adjusted for who's doing something. Like I'm one of the shortest, smallest people out there. And when I'm picking up a 50-pound bag or and someone's like, oh shit, I'm like, yeah, squat gang, let's go. Like I love being underestimated because it's such a fun moment to be like, none of us outrun father time, right? But for
Right.
now, like I have good like physical care of my body, and it's
Yeah.
really exciting and fun to see how that stacks up. Like that fires me up so hard about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
There's
Just
not a
yeah.
women's category and a men's category over there. It's
Yep.
just one.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like same thing going to Darcy. When you're in the stack, you're doing the job. You need to do the next right job. Like you better clear that room, you better clear it right and move on to the next fucking thing. Everyone's gonna get last manned at some point. Like
Yeah.
that's what you gotta do. And I love that because it's just like I guess I have to try so much harder, but it's so I feel useful. And
Yeah.
it's like cool. I actually get to see how I stack up, you
Yeah.
know.
Nice.
That's important.
Now, something you touched on that I had never even thought about is, when I think of gun culture, I think of America, it just, but now you're like you were just saying, you're over there with other countries and they have the same, you're coming across the same people that have the same interests as, what we have over here.
Oh, yeah. And gun culture is really prominent in Europe. Like they have I thought that gun laws were a lot fucking stupider, but no,
Yeah.
gun laws are just stupid in UK because UK is just like this little like cucked California island over there. It's terrible. So, whatever. And they all like hate each other for their accents and whatever else. But in the European side of things, it was really interesting because what did they say? They're like, in Switzerland, you can buy anything you want, but in Finland, you can shoot anything you want. So people
Okay.
there in Switzerland who you could get anything, but you can't really shoot it over there because they don't allow for that. But
Yeah.
Finland would, but their military structure is so different. Like the way they just support everyone just kind of becomes a part of that. And
Hmm.
it is different. Like the gun culture is different in that way.
Yeah. And now all your years of shooting, is there I guess, first of all, what's your favorite weapon to shoot? Do you have a favorite?
Okay, so just hands down because it's fun, and I've only got to majestically really shoulder it once, but nothing felt quite like big dick like shouldering a 240B. So
Yeah.
shoulder, I was just like holding that shit like Rambo and shooting it. I'm
No
just like,
way.
This is so good. It's like holding a fourth grader horozontally and just blowing and like I'm like in a power stance, just and like your whole body like moves backwards with you're all is like one motion.
Yeah.
Oh god, I love it so much. The 240V is great. I will say though, and shout out to Bear Arms, spelled Bexar. He at this range day I was just at in Texas. He has a 13.9 suppressed system he's been working on. It's a fully automatic AR. And this thing was the belle of the ball at the last range and at this like there's videos of me just shooting it fucking one-handed like it's nothing
Yeah.
because like I've shot MP7s which are also cool as fuck like
Yeah.
just I like them, yeah, whatever, they're expensive, like yeah, no, real OG MP7s, there's something to that, you're like this is just nice, like I just like this. But his gun is God, it's cool to shoot. I love that. And then naturally just my own AR that I built out,
Yeah.
so like 10.7 that I have, and like I've ran that thing at Darcy now every time I've been there, and I can just finger fuck that thing in the dark. Like I could be completely blind
Yeah.
and still like feel like I know where I could hold that in my pocket with my eyes closed to still get a good shot on it because I've used it so much. So that's a good feeling just for that.
Yeah. Nice. What is Darcy?
Direct Action Resource Center, as it's called, is a facility put on by a gentleman called Rich Mason. He was a Green Beret, I think, for like 34 years.
Wow.
As I understand it, he's effectively the reason some of the like SOPs and like TTPs exist for things like in like some of the Blackwater style stuff. So they've done a lot of like special forces training and stuff out there, a lot of SWAT and LE. They do, I think, the most breaching of anywhere in the world, like breaching classes and stuff.
Yeah.
So they just go around and blow shit up. They'll be like, hey,
Oh,
we got a
shit.
school that's only want to come out here and go blow up the school. They're like, yeah. So they like get people out there and then they run a whole course on it. It's a bunch
Yeah.
of, nerdy math and doing stuff. But it's just a really, really cool place. And it's primarily for, law enforcement, special forces, things
Yeah.
like that. I got invited through circumstance, getting to know people and whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, fuck yeah, I want to go do that. And so the first time I went out, I got to go do Op 4, which was super fun. And then after that, it's like, come take the class. And I'm like, okay. And then, yeah, I've been on fire for the place since. It's pretty incredible.
Nice. And now sort of what was the hardest thing about, those classes for you to sort of learn?
Oh God. Well, I mean, going in green, honestly, I think it gave me an advantage because there are some guys in there who like they've been doing this shit for 10 years. And to unfuck something that you've ingrained in yourself
Yeah.
is so difficult. I run into it a lot when I teach martial arts. You get someone who does something, you're like, you have to change how you stand with your body this way. Like you have to, we
Yeah.
always default to our lowest level of training, especially in anxiety. I think for me, honestly, it was gear manipulation though.
Yeah.
Because I train how I fight a lot, which is like I will carry under my skirt or in a purse or whatever. Like I am of the mindset like people can say whatever they want, like, oh, you can get this chest carrier or whatever plate. Like, no, there is no good armor for tits. Like there just isn't. Like if you've got tits, either that thing is like up in your throat or it's pushing downwards in your stomach, and you can tape them down all you want and do whatever. It's not made to fit a female form, and you cannot make a ballistic plate safely conical. Like it doesn't, you can't get that curvature and expect it to be any good.
Yeah.
It's not going to work that way. But no, I definitely, sorry, my dog.
That's okay.
Isn't by in the background.
It's all good.
But no, I think gear manipulation for sure. Like I didn't know you couldn't wear contact lenses with gas masks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So like I lost like 2 pairs of contact lenses because the moisture, even though like you can still see like that lock, that seal, and then like the moisture, like it just sucks them out of your fucking eyes. Like fortunately my vision isn't terrible, but enough to be like, I'm like digging around my eyeball. I'm like, where's my goddamn contact lens? Like it's not here. What happened? And then like later on I'm doing reading and it's like, yeah, you have to wear like insert glass. I'm like, oh, fuck that. I'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's wild. You just talked about range day. So I saw the videos. I saw you in your, tiger onesie. That's a, that was just amazing to see. What was that whole experience like? First of all, how many people were there?
Fuck. Well over 100. I don't know the actual number. I'd have to ask Brandon and Cody and Matt, but it was great. I mean, it was a lot. I think anyone there was like, there was a lot of stimulus. Like I needed like a stimmy box, like somewhere to just kind of go and like get some quiet for a second. It was not just noise, like unless you've been around something that like when you're someone's shooting a fully auto like 50 cal weapon,
Yeah.
you're that percussion, like your organs move. You feel it differently. You're like, huh,
Yeah.
like you're getting TBI if you're next to it for too long. Like that's real. And your flesh, it doesn't protect. It's not enough of a buffer with that level of energy that's coming. So even outdoors, you're like, oh God. So that was the overwhelming part of it. The
Yeah.
people, the noise, whatever. But it was incredible. Like there were so many fun people there, interesting people there. It was really exciting to meet a couple of other people that I've been talking to online for a while and didn't get
Yeah.
a chance to meet in person yet. And SHOT Show is kind of a shit show to be at for a whole week.
Hmm.
So having this was just a really fun way to get to hang out with everyone and do that. And yeah, I didn't go there so much to shoot a bunch. Like I shot, Bear Arms 13-9 because he had that and I get to
Yeah.
play around on stuff. But I'm in the very spoiled situation where like if I want to shoot something, all I have to do is ask and I kind of get to do that. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who don't get to do that. And that I think is really exciting to see
Yeah.
how excited people are when you see someone shoot a machine gun for the first time
Yep.
and they're like,
Oh my God.
oh, that's what this is. And you're like, yeah, get it, touch it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, I saw a clip where you guys were all shooting I think it was a Jeep or something like that, or
Hummer.
yeah, Hummer. How loud was that? Because at one point everybody was firing at the same time, correct?
Oh, it was loud as fuck. And
Oh
I
my
was right
God.
behind this turret thing that was a 50 cal that was taken off of, it's a one of. I don't remember the name of it. The guy was like clearly invested. He said he put in 100K to this thing, restoring it. And it's a one of Japanese 50 cal machine gun
Oh
that I
my
believe
God.
was taken off of a tank and then put onto naval vessels later.
Oh
And this
Lord.
thing just had, oh man, I felt it in me bones. And I was right next to it because I'm like, I want to be a part of this. So I picked the worst spot, physically, but like spiritually, it was warming. It was good for me.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, it looked
It
like
was loud
everybody
as
had an
fuck.
amazing time.
It was loud as fuck.
Oh,
You
I
can
bet.
see in the cameras anything that's slow-mo, like there's flexing of the actual like lenses from the reverberation of things. So you're just
Holy
like, oh
cow.
fuck. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Awesome. All right. Now, something else I came across when I was doing my research on you, you have a video that was made, Tacticats.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
I had made a handful of characters. So some time ago, I for a brief stint, I did a bunch of artwork for Roy before I broke off and kind of did just more of my own stuff. But in that, I had made these characters called the Tacticats. It was sort of a stab at the gun bunny element, where it was just a phrase that I was just kind of using, and I was like, oh, let's make things to represent it. So I made some characters, and these characters kind of came to life and we just did a little 10-minute clip with it, which was super fun.
Yep.
And that was just kind of it. It was just something where we did it and it was good to do, but it's people don't realize how much time and money and effort that takes on a back end to produce something like
Yeah.
that. So it was really heavy. Like we did a crowdfunding project for it, did rewards, and we definitely broke even with everything, but it's like it's not, you don't profit off something like
Yeah.
that. Like it has to be a passion project. And it was just kind of a one and done fun thing based
Yep.
off of characters that I had made.
Nice. Now, is that a part of something you really enjoy is like when you taking something from concept to actually now here's you're making the costumes, you're shooting it. That must be something that must be fun to do.
It is cool because it's all of the stages of conception to development,
Yeah.
right? It's like you know, I've made some pretty crazy costumes. Like I made a full like Gundam mobile suit Gundam costume one time. And like that was, sat down, sketched it out, took foam, went for it, did the thing. Same with my Halo costume. Like in my head, I already have it built. Sometimes I don't always know how I'm gonna get there,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, there's the North Star. If I just keep going, I'm gonna get there eventually. And that's what those projects are. And it's really, really cool to it sometimes can suck in the thick of it. But when you're on the other side, you're like, that was worth it. That was fun.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk streaming. What made you hit that go live button? Because I saw you streamed on Twitch and now you're streaming on Kick. What made you first of all hit that go live button?
I've done a bunch of online streaming through different stuff for a long time. So it's not that unusual. Like, it wasn't that big of a leap for me.
Yeah.
I had already done like Instagram live streams, done some streaming stuff on my Discord. Funny enough, I had drawn like hentai and stuff plenty of times. So I was actually registered as a cam girl for a while
Oh,
because
shoot.
it was the only place that would allow me to draw nudity
Oh,
and get
wow.
paid for it. So, like, I don't have to get ravaged because my artwork does. That's the
Right.
fun part. So you could just anything goes with doodles. So I'd like hang out, talk shit, never have to,
Yeah.
drop my brassiere for anyone. And instead, I just get to draw anime girls, getting, whatever.
Yep.
It was a great time. So I did that and for a while. But as far as Twitch goes, during the whole COVID thing, everyone was just inside. It was
Yeah.
just something where I'd already kind of experienced real life streaming, as
Yeah.
funny as that sounds, by being out on the street doing performances with my
True.
artwork,
Yeah.
right? So I literally have like this little cart that I would take with me. So my dog, myself, and my sketchbook would go with this cart. I'd have a sign that says art is free with donation. And I'd link my Venmo or like have a cash box.
Yeah.
And people would just come up and some people would tip $5, some people would tip $105. And they would just give me a painting or like they would take a picture and go.
Yeah.
And I was just already kind of used to that public banter.
Yeah.
So when it came to streaming in my own studio, I'm like, this is great.
It's no
Like,
brainer.
I'm warm and cozy and I have my snacks and I
Yeah.
can get up when I want and it's way easier. So I do miss being out doing some stuff in the public and I'm going to be doing more of that again probably next year because everything took a while to chill out after COVID.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
But especially being in a hyper liberal mecca like Seattle, that's
Yeah.
just part of the course. But I really just love interacting with people and getting to do that in all
Nice.
sorts of ways.
And more recently, I see you've done some streams from the gun range.
Yes, yes. I have actually. So I know you mentioned before we hopped on that you knew my friend Clean.
Yeah.
Clean is Clean. He had done some range day streams, and I'd participated with him on those a couple of
Oh,
times.
okay.
Super fun. Like to go out and do that. Love
Yeah.
it. I have access. There's a local gun club out here called Securite Gun Club, and they have a private bay that I get access to once a week, or just kind of if there aren't classes during the week, I
Yeah.
can pop in and take a spot. But having an indoor spot, they got it all set up where we didn't really have internet good to go in there, but now we do, and yeah, it's super great and it's super fun
Oh,
because
cool.
you just can hang out and share that with other people and have a really open platform to do that with.
Yeah. Now, are we going to see more? Are you going to be doing more streams regularly now that you have that sort of setup sort of figured out?
Yes. And the major reason I haven't been, I had a really good schedule going for a while. The last, realistically, like 6, 7 months. I'm so sick of saying, like, this year's been so hard, like every fucking year for the last, like, goddamn 7 years or whatever. But this year was incredibly tough for many reasons,
Yeah.
just all over. And said putting on an expo, doing the logistics of that, and then travel. I got in where I could, but I just didn't have energy to do it because it takes a lot of energy to entertain from one side. Like people don't always realize that. Like you get off stream and you're just like, ugh. Like
Yeah.
even though I love it, I'm so exhausted. Like
Yeah.
just because someone's charismatic doesn't necessarily mean they get their energy from being charismatic.
Yeah.
Like mine comes in my solitude, and that's where I like to be to rejuvenate myself. And so yeah, that gets pretty tiring after a while. So it was something where I had to kind of take a break to be able to have enough fortitude
Yeah.
to practice. And now I'm like, cool, I can get into this. This is going to be more consistent in a way that I find meaningful and accessible.
Yeah, because a lot of creators that I have been on, they stream and they're on camera, and like you said, you have to be on. You can't just a lot of people think when they think of people who are streaming playing a video game, it's so much more than just playing a video game. They're reading chat, they're being on. Nobody wants to watch somebody who is just miserable on screen. You have to, people want to come by and see somebody who's enjoying themselves.
Absolutely. It's like, so once upon a time, I used to be a DJ and a stage manager at a strip club. You may have picked up on that somewhere in your
Yeah, I think
business.
I saw a clip of something possibly. Yes.
So I used to do that, and one of the things that cracked me up is somebody like, "Oh, these poor girls who are here stripping," and this lady was like, "There is this chick who, she didn't really want to be there, and you could tell." And one of the other gals was like scolding her, and she was a mom, like who didn't really have Like her body may not have been like what you'd expect of that, but
Yeah.
like she made mad money. And she just told the other chick, she's like, honey, nobody likes a sad stripper. If you don't love what you do, you need to get the fuck out. And it was just that stuck with me so hard
Yeah.
because no one does. Who wants to sit there and just be dealing with someone who's sad or upset or whatever? And not that there isn't a place for that or you can't be
Right.
real. I don't think it's disingenuine to want to share positive things, but I do think there comes a point where if you're just bringing everyone down or all you have to talk about is incendiary and controversial shit, like or controversial shit,
Yeah.
you don't really have anything worth like contributing. Like I don't feel like that's a meaningful contribution.
And now, you talked a little bit about Halo. So did you grow up playing any video games, or you just, came across Halo and you just like that sort of,
Oh
um,
yes.
oh,
Oh yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah, no, I came up when I was 6, we got a PlayStation in our house. Or I might have been 5. I think I was 5. We got a PlayStation. It was Spyro the Dragon and Crash Bandicoot, right?
Yeah.
That shit slapped. Dude, the Bugs Life game, that thing was hard as fuck. And the Toy Story game, they're pixelated
Oh, yeah.
bullshit. You start playing some of the Tomb Raider or whatever. But that, evolved. And then Halo came out when I was about 8.
Yeah.
And that shit changed my life. Like, core memory was I'm the oldest of about 30 some odd cousins. And my uncles, my 3 uncles above me, my dad's the oldest of all of them. My 3 uncles were all like teenagers when I was born, so they were kind of my big brothers.
Yeah.
And naturally, they all played Halo too, so we all played Halo together. And we used to go on these family houseboat trips where everyone would pool together and they'd rent a houseboat. I think it's like 2001 or 2002. We are all on a houseboat as a family. My uncles and a couple of their satellite friends who are just like, family members effectively by proxy,
Yeah.
all brought their Magnavox TVs. And we have 4 TVs, all split screen with 4 Xboxes on the roof of the houseboat catfishing. And like, I knew when I was a kid sitting out there at this time, I knew like under the stars playing Halo, like, I just knew in my soul, I'm like, this is a peak moment. And I just like took that in. And like one of my best memories, just we were on the houseboat every single fucking night playing Halo after a long day of
Yeah.
wakeboarding and doing whatever. And we're just all here. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't get better than this. And I was right.
Awesome. And now, do you still play any video games today?
Oh yeah, I love playing games. I mean, I do when I can. I don't
Yeah.
always have time for things. I did competitive COD for a
Oh, no
while.
way.
Yeah, I was one of those fuckers. Um, I got really into it, Modern Warfare 2. Got my first COD that I like really really loved was Black Ops because
Yeah.
Black Ops was just good. But by
Yes.
the time Modern Warfare 3 came around, that's when I got good.
Yeah.
And Modern Warfare 3, we had like a clan. We played. They had kind of started this competitive system where I was on a team. I didn't like travel in that way, but we made a clan together and they had this Call of Duty Elite that they did where they're like, all right, we're going to let people make their own teams. If you place in the top percentage, we will send you prizes. Like, there's supposed to be cash prizes, like $1,000, like all this stuff. And Lord knows, Activision can fucking afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was unfortunate because like my team, we had a team that was called Just the Tip. And they got we ended up like busting ass. Like I was up at 7:30 in the morning to get on the East Coast with like my Midwestern people to like train before our matches. So
Yeah.
we're up like super fucking early and we kicked ass and we won. We got in the like top 10% for the first series. And then they're like, hey, we have to cancel it. Too many people cheated. We're like, oh man, that fucking sucks. We're
Oh.
like, all right, we'll try it again. So we go through the whole rigmarole again. Like we all paid for our clan stuff and everything. And then we end up placing in the top 1% for like, we fucking crushed it. Like we just mopped the floor with these people. We were so stoked. Like top 1% is still a big chunk of people.
Yeah.
But again, because so many people fucking cheated,
Ah.
they just decided to drop it entirely and nobody got
Wow.
anything. But like it sucked because we were all a bunch of try-hard, sweaty fucking kids doing it. It was awesome. It was awesome. I like it just COD lobbies. Man, I mourn the end of like Halo 2
Yeah.
online, OG Halo 3, those COD lobbies, man. It's just that built us. That built our foundation.
Awesome. Ah. All right. So I got to ask the question. The yellow tiger onesie. Where did it come from? How did you like all of a sudden I was like, I need that and I'm gonna rock it.
So I told you how I was DJ stage manager at a strip club, right?
Yes.
That meant my job was to be on the stage and like DJ or like DJ for everyone and get like and announce them and be like,
Right.
"All right, Tiffany, stop doing coke. Like Jade's up next," whatever. So that was my MO. But I actually got the tiger onesie when I worked there. I was like on eBay, it was like $20. I'm like, dude, fuck yeah, this is great. Like, I don't need to dress like a slut. This is what the girls are doing. Like,
Right.
they're the ones making money. I had like these light up, like, really awesome, like color changing cat ear headphones, which I still have.
Yeah.
So I'd be DJing with my headphones, my chucks, and my tiger onesie, and it was great. You get people coming up, and they'd be like, trying to like, you can't philander the tiger behind the counter. It ain't gonna work. But it was just something I liked. Well, then I ended up going on this trip with some friends to SoCal. We were in Sacramento at the time. I don't know what we were doing there, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna bring my tiger pajamas. So I brought them with me. And I had a fresh pair of chucks. It was fly, and I was cruising around, and like every single fucking black dude was like, that's the coolest fucking pair of pajamas I've ever seen. And I was like, damn, the black people think I'm cool, which means it's actually cool. And I was like, that's how I know. I was like, all right. They're like, yo, that's fucking awesome. I'm like, what's up, man? I was like, oh man, we're in. This is good. This is good. And so like, what got me, I'm at this bar. We're sitting there, and I don't drink or like anything, but it was just I like to enjoy the company there. So
Yeah.
I'll go out with friends there. So I'm sitting there, I'm chilling, and there's this gentleman next to me, and he's having this like total conversation about like, yeah, but we got to get the stocks, like blah blah blah. And he's like, this really clean cut business guy,
Yeah.
older black gentleman, gorgeous watch, whatever. And he goes, hold on one moment, Thomas. He turns to me, and he's like, girl, what the fuck you wearing? I was like, my man, I am a tiger. And he's like, shit, yeah, you are, and like fist bumps me, and just like goes back to being like, all right, then, going
Corporate
back
guy.
to
Yeah.
like, damn, like that moment right there just like changed my life. I'm like, I guess there's something to this. And then I just had it and would just bust out on occasion because I thought it was like funny or whatever. And then up here it's cold and wet and rainy, a lot. We'll be
Right.
out. We don't care. It'll be 40 degrees. We'll go shoot in the woods. We actually get to go play in public land a lot. And a couple times it was chilly, and I'm like, I'm gonna bring my fucking tiger pajamas because it's fucking cold. And I did. And then some people were like, oh, what's this? Like, why? This is fucking awesome. And I'm like, all right. And I just kind of kept with it.
Yeah.
So it's everyone else's fault that I'm in my tiger onesie all the time.
It's your
But no,
safety vest too.
it's no, it's become something that's just fun, and I like it because it's so incredibly unsexy
Yeah.
that I think it makes it sexy, and that's what I like about it. I'm like, yep.
And now when you don it, do you feel a change of your person? Like you're ready, like, you're in the moment now.
I hate to say it, but I'm just kind of me all the time.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't
Nothing
really
wrong with
like. I mean,
that.
don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's the moments, but like as far as just doing, I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's in. You're just like, ah, here it is. Like part of that too is the joke. Go to somewhere like Range Day. There's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I do my best. I remember faces and interactions well. I'm dog shit at names. I know most people are, but like I'm bad with names. So I'm like, you know what? I may not be able to remember everybody, but there's a good chance they won't forget the mouthy cunt and the tiger onesie. So usually I'll be like, wait, you were the one, the tiger onesie. I'm like, yeah, that was me. And so that makes it easy to be like, cool, we already kind of know each other.
Yeah.
And it like helps me help others remember our interaction. So it's like, even though it's just a little thing, they're like, oh yeah, that one. I'm like, that one,
Oh God, I love it. Awesome. So now, when you're not doing any art, you're not on the range or doing anything with firearms, what do you like to do?
I really, really enjoy practicing martial arts.
Yeah.
So I teach martial arts several days a week, primarily adults, really, really traditional Shaolin and Kempo. And I love fighting. In another life, I'd have done fighting. I love it so much. I've had too much TBI to really like commit to that. That doesn't stop me from doing plenty of stuff anyway. I probably should be wearing a helmet all the time at this point in my life. But I really, really love the art of fighting. I really, really love training. That to me is just super great. Naturally though, too, just my family. As far as family goes, like, that's Jax. That's my younger brother. He's in his he's about to be 21 here. He lives with Jax and I, and
Oh, nice.
my dog and my cat. Like, I don't know, a few things are better than just having your rituals and sitting there being with your person.
Yeah.
So as far as like not doing something, like that's my favorite thing to do. Like every single night, I think this is really important, like for couples and stuff too, to have like a ritual every night. Doesn't matter if like I'm gonna be up until 5 a.m. working and on calls, and he's going to bed at 10 o'clock or whatever. Like sometimes our schedules are kind of
Hmm.
opposite. We sit down, we have a fucking cup of tea, and we like swap foot rubs on the couch or whatever, and like watch a show. Or
Nice.
it was just a conversation.
Yep.
No matter what, it's like I might be gone, I might travel somewhere, do something, but if I am home, we are going to do that thing, and it's like that's precious. Like
Yep.
that's one of my favorite things. It's a precious thing to do.
Nice. And what is, what is on the current TV playlist right now?
Oh, see, we're cruising through Mad Men
Oh,
because
okay.
I had never seen it, and that's a great series. We just not too long ago finished The Wire, which was awesome.
Oh, The Wire's
So good,
one of the
so
best
good.
shows. Yep.
One of my
Omar.
best friends did undercover cop work and shit for years, and he was
Yep.
just like, "Dude, watch The Wire," and I was like, "Damn, all 3 seasons are just it's a perfect show. It's a
It,
perfect show,
yep.
and it deserves every accolade it's ever gotten.
Yep.
Wire is amazing."
Yeah.
Uh, and then whatever anime is on the Rolodex,
Yeah.
I like to keep it fresh. I'm a fucking dweeb. I'll throw down with most shit, but
Nice. Yeah, The
yeah.
Wire was so good because every season sort of focused on a different aspect of sort of whether you had the harbor front or the education system, it was just so well done.
Well, and especially like for anyone who hasn't seen it, and you're like, oh, all right, I'll check it out. It's the most accurate depiction from people who've lived during that time of undercover work and how it worked, all the stupid bureaucracy that went behind it,
Yeah.
the dynamics of shit, and you get to see the real time evolution because it takes place in like 2001,
Right.
and so you get to see the evolution of when the show starts. People are using pagers,
Yeah.
and if that doesn't date the show, it shows you how quickly things change and how fast they're going from pagers to by the third season they're triangulating cell phone calls and like
Yeah.
it's totally different. It had to optimize differently, and so it's very keeps real pace with real problems.
Yep.
And it's funny because I hate this concept of like what it's become, but I will say this honestly, that The Wire does the best job at incorporating diversity in the actual best sense. You're like, wow, look, these are real people, and we don't have to sit here and soapbox some bullshit at you for whatever several
Right.
minutes on screen.
Before I let you go though, you got to shout out somebody who you think would have a good story to come on the pod and share.
Oh goodness, I know so many people. I don't even know who everyone you've had on either.
You probably have a whole bunch of people I've never even heard of, or
Oh yeah, where do you want to expand to?
you tell
What
me.
kind?
I can give me two people and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, I by default, I think my guy Jax Lando is he goes by Landosaurus online in some things, even though he's like, oh, I know I'm not really anything important. He is a wealth of information and an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes not only to like, just political vernacular and
Yeah.
understanding, but like also like firearms and like just he has a really deep understanding of a lot of things and philosophy and stuff, which is really interesting.
Okay.
To that same point, Forrest, he goes by Redacted. He actually has his own podcast.
Okay.
But Forrest is exceptionally well read, very philosophical, and he also comes from a background of like contractor military type
Okay.
stuff, and has some really interesting stuff to share. So he's someone who's just really good conversation. He has a really cool podcast I've been on
Awesome.
several times myself. But really good person. Forrest is awesome.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Anything that's coming up that you want to give a shout out to? I know you talked about the expo. Anything else?
Yeah, no, I think right now that's the fixation of my life
All right.
and every waking moment of my existence of trying to pull this shit together. So yeah, check it out, pewpeeps.com, the good peeps in gun culture. And otherwise, my shop is always full of goodies galore, so you can support me directly as well on my Patreon or shop.paigeosity.com. I imagine you'll have the spelling in the title, so
Yes.
I won't have to spell that out for you. I hope you can figure that out.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.